we're building something stupid. It doesn't have to be great. It just has to be stupid. So I want to ask you a question. A very, very, very important question. What is the best card in Magic the Gathering? What is the #1 card that everybody should understand when they are drafting, when they are playing, and when we are speaking about it in Legend? Is the best card possible in all of Magic? I have an opinion on what this card is. I have a very strong opinion on what this card is, and I think it's Colossal Dreadmaw. All right. I know what you're thinking. Colossal Dreadmaw? Surely that's not the best card in Magic the Gathering. Surely the best card in Magic is actually Meteor Golem. I mean, look at this thing. Absolutely look at it. Just for a minute, there is nothing wrong with this Magic the Gathering card. It can kill anything in the game outside of lands. It can even kill Hope. And Hope is a powerful thing. But no, I want to go ahead and inform you that Colossal Dreadmaw is actually one of the most quintessential Magic the Gathering cards. Think about it. If you are drafting and you see a Colossal Dreadmaw, how many games can this thing win? It 4-taps any opponent, and it has trample, so it's really easy to 4-tap opponents. It's got a power of 6. So it's able to 4-tap opponents, not just because it's hitting them for 24, but because with trample, it's got the ability to actually beat over jump blockers and therefore 4-tap opponents. Colossal Dreadmaw is a card that I will always be excited for if I find it in a draft pack, because it is nightmarishly easy to win a game of Limited with a Colossal Dreadmaw if your opponent did not get anything to kill it. Now, you may be asking yourself a question: why would we pick Colossal Dreadmaw as a commander? And the answer is because it's cool. But you may be asking the following question: how in the world can you make Colossal Dreadmaw a commander? It's a 6/6 with trample that's not legendary. But unfortunately, Universes Beyond exists, and because it exists, we are going to take full advantage of that. So instead of Colossal Dreadmaw in the command zone, though if somebody lets you rule 0 it, then that's entirely your purview, instead of him in the command zone, we have Spider Dino in the command zone. I know he's Spider Rex, but like, this is just Colossal Dreadmaw. This is just a Colossal Dreadmaw in the command zone. That is all this is. Now, granted, it does a little more than the Dreadmaw. It's got Reach and Ward 2 on top of being legendary. And aside from that, it's just the same Magic the Gathering card. So I wanted to ask myself, how many of the Colossal Dreadmaw style cards could we put in? So obviously, we've got Colossal Dreadmaw himself, and that's great. I love Colossal Dreadmaw. But what if we had Colossal Dreadmaw, but it's an equipment? Because the Colossal Dreadmask is just that, a thing that can give anything the abilities of Colossal Dreadmaw. And what if we had Colossal Dreadmaw, but it's from Final Fantasy? It's got a gain life ability, which is kind of neat, and it's got forest cycling, but let's be honest, it's just a Colossal Dreadmaw. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a Colossal Dreadmaw. I think it actually gives him a lot of flavor. But what if we also had Colossal Dreadmaw, but with Cascade? This thing is 5 toughness instead of 6 and costs 1 more mana, but make no mistake, Annoyed Altasaur has the spirit of a Colossal Dreadmaw. Now, I know what you're thinking. What if we had a Colossal Dreadmaw that could draw us cards? And don't worry, I've got you. We have Earthshaker Dreadmaw, a Colossal Dreadmaw that draws us cards based on the amount of other Colossal Dreadmaws we have. I know it says dinosaurs, but let's be honest, you're mostly doing this so that you have more Colossal Dreadmaws. And that's okay. You should be able to live your best life without being judged. But I will judge you, because it's funny. That said, let's talk about Colossal Dreadmaw, but it's a Skinwalker, and that's Sunfrill Imitator. It can attack and become a copy of Colossal Dreadmaw. It can technically attack and become a copy of anything else, but you are turning it into Colossal Dreadmaw. This is not negotiable. This is what you're doing. This is what you're aiming for. This is who you want to be when you grow up. Now, what if we had Colossal Dreadmaw, but he lacks Trample and Motivation? And that's where we get the Alpha Tyrannix, a card that would eventually become Phyrexianized, but like, in this form, it does nothing. And now we have to figure out how many other cards in Magic the Gathering share the spirit of Colossal Dreadmaw. Well, big dumb dinosaurs. Absolutely the biggest, dumbest dinosaurs. Many of the biggest, dumbest dinosaurs. In fact, I've compiled a list of 12 big dumb dinosaurs here, and I'm going to talk about them all at length, because they are green, which is my favorite color, and they are dinosaurs, which is not my favorite creature, but it's still really cool. And I have at least one friend who's probably really autistically stuck on dinosaurs like forever. So I don't know, if he ever finds this video, I guess this is also for him. That said, okay, we have the Ancient Brontodon, a 9/9 that does nothing, but again, Colossal Dreadmaw in spirit. Then we have the Rampaging Brontodon, a 7/7 with Trample that can get even bigger. So it feels like what it feels like to be punched with a Colossal Dreadmaw in Limited. Then we have a Verdant Sun's Avatar, who gives us a tasty drink to give us tons of life, so long as we are playing Colossal Dreadmaws. Then we have Maelstrom Colossus, who has Cascade, for the purpose of cascading into a Colossal Dreadmaw. Then we have Tarion the World Tyrant, a 9/7 for 5, which, if it had Trample, would just be a power crept Colossal Dreadmaw. But let's be honest, Wizards of the Coast will never power creep Colossal Dreadmaw. He is already perfect, and he has already done far too much good for the world. We would never power creep him. But we would make Titanith Rex an 11/11 dinosaur with Trample that can be cycled when we have a bad day. Or Migrating Ketrodon, a not Colossal Dreadmaw that can be cycled when we're having a bad day. Or Quakestrider Ceratops, because how the hell did a Crawworm get into my deck? Look, I actually love this card because the design philosophy behind this was quite literally, what if Crawworm were made in the modern day? That's the actual reason Quakestrider Ceratops exists. And if you've never met Crawworm, it's a 6/4 with no abilities. It is effectively the original Colossal Dreadmaw, a giant dumb dude that exists solely so that kids can have a fun big thing to play with and limited environments have something that maybe feels like a bomb. But because of the Crawworm, I need to put in a Sandworm conversion. So one reason is mechanical. It's the fact that as a deck focused on big stompy on-the-ground creatures, we need something that allows us to survive flyers. And while our commander has reach, our commander does not block an Ur-Dragon, and I had an experience where my Zatalpa was the only thing between me and ruin for an entire, 5 turns. So now we have Sandworm Convergence, one of my favorite cards from one of the few times I let myself get back into Magic years ago. This thing's from Amonkhet, it makes big sandworms, and it stops flyers from punching us. That said, back to the dinosaurs, we have Ancient Imperasaur, a trampling Ward 2 creature that has Convoke and can be a little bigger than normal whenever we convoke it, but, let's be honest, this thing has the spirit of a Colossal Dreadmaw. It's a dinosaur, it's got 6/6, it's got Trample. What's not to love? Then we have 2 cards that arguably don't have the spirit of a Colossal Dreadmaw, but might together create one. I think Colossal Dreadmaw is maybe better than the sum of their parts, but they are Galta, Primal Hunger, and Gigantosaurus. You see, Gigantosaurus fills the basically does nothing, but it's a gigantic fucking dinosaur, and we all love that. And Galta does the same thing, but it has Trample and other text that maybe matters in some decks. I don't know. We're mono green. You think we care about discounts around here? Anyway, both of these cards together do in fact make up the spirit of a Colossal Dreadmaw, and so they are making their way in. But we also need ways to make our Dreadmaws bigger. 6/6 is huge, but sometimes it's not the biggest thing on the table, and that just cannot be the reality we live in. So let me introduce you to Unnatural Growth, a card that will double the power and toughness of everything on our board whenever we go into combat. This will make our Colossal Dreadmaws at minimum 12/12s. Then we have the Thundering Spineback, which will give Dreadmaws 1/1, Regal Imperasaur, which will give Dreadmaws 1/1, and and a Glacier Godmaw, which can make all of our Colossal Dreadmaws have haste. So for the one you're able to cast each turn, because goddamn these guys expensive, you can just give it haste every single time. And you know, this is not the only way to give a Colossal Dreadmaw haste. I also want to put in Lava Spur Boots so that we have more ways to give Colossal Dreadmaw haste. It also gives it Ward 1, which like is way more scary than you might think. Your opponent tries to cast murder on the damn thing and you're just like, ha, pay one more, bitch. Let's talk about drawing cards. Do you like drawing cards? Because like I really like drawing cards. I think touching cardboard is one of the best things in Magic the Gathering. So let's try to touch as many cards as we possibly can. So did you know that when you cast a Colossal Dreadmaw, it triggers Garrick's Pack Leader, a card that will draw us a card when you cast Colossal Dreadmaws. Garrick's Uprising will do the same thing, and Lifecrafter's Bestiary will do it too, so long as you're willing to pay the Colossal Dreadmaw tax. And it's okay to pay the Colossal Dreadmaw tax. It lets you see more cardboard. Then we have Harmonize, a card that nobody likes. In fact, I'm pretty sure that when I put this in my decks, I also don't like it, because it always gets cut. But this time we're keeping it in. Why? Because it can draw us 3 Colossal Dreadmaws, and I think that's pretty cool. Then we have the Runic Armasaur, a card that says anytime our opponents activate a non-mana ability, we get to draw a card. It's not quite stacks, but it does punish our opponent for playing cards more complicated than a Colossal Dreadmaw. Then we have a Curious Altasaur, which says when our Colossal Dreadmaws punch our opponents in the face, we get to draw a card per Colossal Dreadmaw. Pretty great, actually. Then we have the Regal Behemoth, which gives us the Monarch because only people who play Colossal Dreadmaw are kings. Then we have Monstrous Vortex. Whenever we play a Colossal Dreadmaw, we get to actually discover 6. I'm sure that the text on the card is a little different than what I said, but ignore that. Not important. Reading is bad. Trample is the only keyword that matters. Then we have Lifestream's Blessing, which draws us cards and gains us life for all of the power of a Colossal Dreadmaw, which is pretty much perfect. You do have to foretell it early though, so maybe the card will get cut because it makes us think. Then we have Return of the Wild Speaker, which can sometimes win us the game by making Colossal Dreadmaws bigger or drawing us 6 cards. Then we have Rishkar's Expertise, which will draw us 6 cards and then let us cast something that's not a Colossal Dreadmaw, but might be almost as good from our hand afterwards for free. Then we have Garrick Primal Hunter, which can neg himself by 3 to draw us 6 cards. And then we have Up the Beanstalk, which can draw us a card every time we cast a Colossal Dreadmaw. Removal is an important thing in Magic the Gathering. In fact, I would argue it's probably the most important thing in Magic the Gathering, but I'm a dirty stun player from Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm a dirty control and mid-range player in Pioneer, so maybe that's why I have opinions that many people may consider objectively wrong or even flat out evil. That said, I think we need to talk about how to make a Colossal Dreadmaw into a board wipe. And I think I've got just the way to do it. A friend of mine noted as we were building this deck over Discord that you look upon the Tarrasque turns a Colossal Dreadmaw into a pseudo board wipe. You can tell your opponents to run and hide, or you can tell them to gather their courage. If you tell them to gather their courage, an 11/11 Colossal Dreadmaw steps into their house and fucks their wife. And then their creatures die. One of these is more traumatizing than the other, but it's entirely up to you to figure out which one. Then we have an Oblivion Stone, which will kill everything, but you can put a fate counter on a Colossal Dreadmaw so that this fun boy will not actually die to this board wipe. But then we've got more standard removal. We have Meteor Golem to get rid of anything at all that we might need, a Scavenger Ooze to get rid of cards in the graveyard, a Heritage Reclamation to get rid of artifacts, enchantments, or cards in the graveyard, Bushwhack to be our 38th land that can also make a Colossal Dreadmaw fight something, Tail Swipe, which makes a Colossal Dreadmaw sit on an opponent's face, a Thrashing Brontodon, which can blow up an artifact or enchantment, a Scion of Calamity, which clones itself to kill things, a Colony Ambush, and a Bridgeworks Battle to make our Colossal Dreadmaws fight to the death. They also are MDFCs, so they are free includes. A Druid of Purification, because making our opponents lose a bunch of resources and us lose none is pretty great. And then an Apex Altasaur, because it's a dinosaur that fights people. And dinosaurs that fight people are cool. Alright, now we have to talk about the most important part of the entire deck, aside from the Dread Boy himself, and that is ramp. We need lots of ramp to make a deck like this function, so let's go ahead and talk about that. We're running a 14-card ramp package, and, well, let's start with Sammy's Curiosity, Wayfarer's Bauble, and Font of Fertility. They are all the same card. They come down for 1 mana, they get sacked for 2 mana, they get us any basic land out of our deck. Then we have the Intrepid Paleontologist, the only mana dork we'll be running because, well, Colossal Dreadmaws are weak to Wrath of God. But the Paleontologist can get rid of cards in exile and even allow us to recur Colossal Dreadmaws, so honestly, it gets a pass. Then we have Sakura Tribe Elder and Rampant Growth and Topiary Stomper. All of these get a single land out of our deck, which is a pretty decent rate, all things considered. Then we have a Cultivate and a Flare of Cultivation, 2 cards that will allow us to get any 2 basic lands out of our deck. 1 goes to the battlefield, and then 1 goes to the board. Though, I'm gonna remind you, the Flare of Cultivation can sack a green creature to use its ability, and I also need to remind you that sacrificing Colossal Dreadmaw to the Flare of Cultivation is tantamount to blasphemy. And I know what happens to blasphemers. I live in the Georgia South. I live in the Bible Belt. You don't want to do that. You really don't want to do that. Then we have Skyshroud Claim, Thunderherd Migration, and Migration Path. Now, the Migration Path and the Skyshroud Claim can both net 2 lands out of the deck, and the Thunderherd Migration is only a Rampant Growth when we are willing to show our opponents that we do in fact have the best card of Magic the Gathering in our hand. If you can't show them that, then it's a really bad Cultivate. But if you can show them you have Colossal Dreadmaw, the Thunderherd Migration will in fact get you the lands you need. Now, speaking of lands you need, we are going to be running 27 of these guys, forests, and a bunch of utility lands. We have a Mosswort Bridge so that we can freely cast Colossal Dreadmaw from the top of the deck, a Myriad Landscape to ramp, an Ominous Cemetery to get rid of problematic creatures, a Rogue's Passage so Colossal Dreadmaw can swing in untethered, a Blighted Woodland to allow us to ramp as well, a Temple of the False God because there are some cards that are almost as good as Colossal Dreadmaw and everybody hates them and they are all wrong, and then we have Shrine of the Forsaken Gods, the smaller brother to Temple of the False Gods that's basically better, but ignore that. Then we have Scavenging Grounds, a card that will allow us to knock out graveyards when the Reanimator player gets a little too uppity. That said, that's it for everything in the deck. Now let's show you how to play it. Alrighty, looking at this hand, we've got a Rampant Growth, a Bushwhack, and 3 lands. I'm willing to keep this, actually. This seems perfectly reasonable. Let's go ahead and draw our opening card, play a Forest, and past our opponents. Then we draw again, Forest, tap 2, Rampant Growth. We can go into the library, yank out a Forest, and then go ahead and go to the next turn. We have a Rampaging Brontodon in our hand, which is not fantastic right now. We're going to play a Forest, and I'm willing to bet that we're going to end up having to use this Bushwhack as another Forest. I'm not super thrilled about that, but if it has to happen, it has to happen. Next turn comes out, we have a Curious Altosaur, so we're going to pay 1, 2, 3, 4, get the Curious Altosaur out, and then we're going to pay 1, and we're going to get rid of our own Bushwhack to go into our library and get our 38th land. Then we move to turn 5, we get to play a Forest, and now we get to tap out in order to play Colossal Dread Mask. It's a living weapon, it's gonna equip to a germ, and it's gonna give that creature 6/6 and trample. Then we're gonna swing with our Curious Altosaur at somebody. If they have a blocker, they have a blocker. If they don't, we draw a card. Let's assume they have the blocker, and we're gonna move to our next turn. We draw a Return of the Wild Speaker, so I think it's only prudent that we go ahead and try to draw 6 cards. We do in fact have 1 Colossal Dreadmaw right now, so we should be drawing as many cards as we possibly can. Then that lets us play a land for turn, and then we can tap that 1 land for a Sammy's Curiosity and tap another land to play a Lava Spur Boots. This is a Mouse-Cthulhu that will help us later. Then we swing with the Colossal Dread Mask, not drawing any cards because for some reason, Wizards of the Coast did not make Colossal Dread Mask turn a card into a dinosaur. I do not understand what is wrong with them, but they have been destroying the game for years. And this is a prime example of how. Then we move into turn 7, where we have an Earthshaker Dreadmaw in hand. Let's go ahead and play the Bridgeworks Battle down as a land, and let's tap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and play Spider Rex Daring Dino, also known as Colossal Dreadmaw at home. Let's play 1 to give him the Lava Spear boot so he could punch somebody real hard and draw us a card. And after drawing us a card, we get sad because we played our Tangleworks Bridgeworks on the battlefield. We're going to toss that forest away and just be... No, we're not going to toss it away. We're going to toss something else out of our hand away. I think we get rid of the Ancient Brontodon. That's okay to get rid of. Then let's move on to turn 8. And while we've already won the game, because we have 2 Colossal Dreadmaws on the board and our opponents have 0, let's pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's play Earthshaker Dreadmaw. Now, Earthshaker Dreadmaw is a Colossal Dreadmaw as well, so it's going to draw us 2 cards because we have 2 other dinosaurs, and that means that we are winning. We have won the game, everyone, because we have more dinosaurs than they do. We can pay 1 for a Wayfarer's Bauble and pay 2 to crack the Lander from Sammy's Curiosity to get another forest out of our deck because that will help us later. But realistically, right now, we've won. We have 3 Colossal Dreadmaws. We have 3 opponents. We have 1 god per opponent that they can either worship or die to. And I think that's pretty cool. Now, if you want to upgrade this perfect deck, then what you would need to do is add in cards like Bonder's Enclave and War Room. Lands that don't take away from what you're doing, but will give you the ability to stay in the game long term when things go bad. Let's also add in an Outcast Trailblazer to draw us cards when we cast Colossal Dreadmaws. Beast Whisperer can do the same thing, and I also think the ramp package could be bulked up by adding in a Kadama's Reach and an Entis Restoration. The Restoration will, of course, get us a lot more lands than normal because we have Colossal Dreadmaws. Let's also put in an Emerald Medallion because this can make all of our green creatures cost way less to cast over time. A Beast Within can also bulk up our removal section, and Carnage Tyrant has the same spirit of a Colossal Dreadmaw, so I'm willing to throw him in. An Elemental Bond can also beef up our draw package, and a Tarrasque is probably one of the most hilarious, gigantic things you could put in this deck, and it technically is a removal spell. Let's also put in a Kadama of the East Tree because, well, honestly, it's just a way to get extra Colossal Dreadmaws on the board. Let's also put more MDFCs in, like Disciple of Freylease and Balaget Recovery, because they are lands on their backside. Then let's put in a Skullspore Nexus because, well, it's able to make Colossal Dreadmaws that die turn into gigantic tokens that look kind of like Colossal Dreadmaws. Let's also put in the Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots because when we have the budget for it, making our Colossal Dreadmaws have haste is a good thing. And finally, we have Vigor. If any damage would be dealt to one of our Colossal Dreadmaws, we can put a bunch of 1/1 counters on them instead, making our gods last forever. That all said, if you like the deck or you have any criticism, let me know in the comment section below. I know that I glazed, but come on, it's Colossal Dreadmaw. The thing's effectively legendary, like, in our hearts. I think it's okay to glaze it. That said, if you wanted to pick up this deck, then all you would need to do is head over to Mana Pool. Just go over to my Moxfield link, click Buy Deck, and you can click here on Buy Now, and that will put the deck in your Mana Pool cart. If you want to support the channel directly while doing this, then all you would need to do is go to the description of any video and click my Mana Pool link right there. When you do, it'll take you over to this page. If you are a new user of Mana Pool, then you can claim a reward and you'll get $5 off your first purchase. If you are not a new user of Mana Pool, then I want to thank you for using this channel's sponsor and helping to support my channel in so doing. That said, I want to go ahead and also say thank you everyone for watching the video. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope to see y'all in the next one.